morning and welcome to Wake Up to Wellness with Michelle Christman, and I'm so excited you're with us today. We're here to empower you, your friends, your family, and your loved ones to be healthy and well naturally. And the one thing that I love about health is that we were made to be well. We were made to function at a high level of health and vitality, and so that our body could be at not only the most optimal level, but for you to be the best you that you could possibly ever be. And the one thing that many people don't even realize is that they were born with the most amazing system ever, and it's called your central nervous system. It literally controls every single organ, tissue, and cell in the body. It sends signals out to every single portion of who you are. It sends the signals back up to the brain and back down again. And it's so smart and intelligent, it's protected by bone, which is what we call your spine. There's 24 movable vertebrae, and this is where your life is coming from, and this is where health is radiating. And today, we're going to be talking to one of the most amazing chiropractors in the world, Dr. Neil Cohen. And I've got to tell you, it's not only such an honor to have him in our life, but I also feel as if he has such an amazing and powerful message to not only share with the world, but to help you begin to make that first step to be the best you could possibly be. And we're going to take a quick commercial break because I want you to begin to not only start to delve in, tune in, but also listen of how this great information can flat out save your health and save your life.
Christman Family Chiropractic, a creating wellness center located at 2310 Churchville Road, Suite C in Bel Air, is enhancing lives through the power of a chiropractic adjustment. As a licensed chiropractor in Maryland and Pennsylvania, Dr. Evan Christman can correct damage from years of lifestyle stresses while educating you to maintain good health for your lifetime. A dedicated professional with a very special focus on children with learning differences and autism, Dr. Christman treats people of all ages: newborn babies, children, pregnant women, families, seniors, and professional golfers. Isn't it time for you to reclaim your life? Take your first step toward health and vitality today. Call Christman Family Chiropractic, a creating wellness center, at 410-734-4060 and let their experienced staff show you how to restore the flow of life. 410-734-4060 or check them out at restorelifeflow.com.
Welcome back to Wake Up to Wellness with Michelle Christman, and I'm so excited you're with us. We're here to empower you, your friends, your family, and your loved ones to be healthy and well naturally. And today we're with Dr. Neil Cohen. He's absolutely amazing. He's one of the most amazing chiropractors in the world. And I've got to tell you, my husband and I, we flew down to Florida, had a most amazing vacation, and we met Dr. Neil. He had a wonderful practice. We got to meet his son. And I've got to tell you, he's not only such an amazing principled chiropractor, but we had one of the most amazing adjustments ever. And I walked away from his practice not only knowing that we were in the right place, but also wishing that we lived in that area so that we could have consistent chiropractic care through him. Dr. Neil, welcome to Wake Up to Wellness with Michelle Christman.
Thanks for having me, Michelle. I appreciate it.
Oh, you are welcome. So, Dr. Neil, tell me, how did you become a chiropractor? What led you down this path? Many people will say that chiropractors, were chosen, that, it wasn't something that you just happened to stumble into. How did this come about in your life?
That's a great question, and I definitely was chosen to be a chiropractor, but at the time that I was chosen, I really didn't know that I was being chose. I really got into chiropractic for all the wrong reasons. I didn't know that much about it. I received one adjustment, and I felt as if the weight of the world was lifted off my shoulders. And I asked the chiropractor that adjusted me to explain it to me, and he just couldn't explain it. He just shook his head and smiled. And I was just began that journey to find out what this was. What was this thing that made me feel whole again and so good? And I was only about 21 or 22 years old. But that day, the day I received my first adjustment, I rode away to all the chiropractic colleges to find out what the requirements were to become a chiropractor. I just knew innately after that first adjustment that that's what God wanted me to be. And so when I got to chiropractic college, I still didn't know a whole heck of a lot. And it was that transformation in school, understanding the principle, the laws of life that were being taught to me, that turned me into a chiropractor that's just so radically present to teach people what chiropractic is, I'm just so excited. I've been doing this for 27 years, and I'm still as excited as I was the first day that I understood it.
Now, Dr. Neal, I've got to tell you, my husband went to Logan College of Chiropractic. His name's Dr. Evan R. Christman, and he absolutely loves what he's doing. But while he was in chiropractic college, I've got to tell you, the word subluxation wasn't used, and I'd love for you to start to explain to us what that means and how that applies to your health. But also, where did you go to chiropractic school that you actually walked away understanding what chiropractic was and understanding the principle of chiropractic, or is this something that happened later in life?
Well, the understanding of chiropractic, I believe, is a bottomless well. I think that we can learn about chiropractic for the rest of our lives. But I was very fortunate. I was very blessed because when I went to Life College back in 1983, I started April 1983, Dr. Sid Williams, who is the defender of chiropractic, who studied under B.J. Palmer, who was one of the greatest chiropractors of the 20th century, he was the one that was president of Life College. And we were required to go to philosophy class every week. It was, they took attendance. And, in the beginning, I was negative about it because you had to go. But Dr. Williams, through his lasting purpose principle, teaching us how to give, how to love, how to serve people through lasting purpose, he taught us what chiropractic really was. And chiropractic is so much more than just the subluxation and just the adjustment. Chiropractic is really a way of life. It's a way of living. It's a way of giving back to humanity by connecting people to their source. Life comes from God. And when you're losing life, when there's interference in your life, when there's stress, then you can't be the optimum person. You can't live at optimum potential. And Dr. Williams taught us that this adjustment, this little bump of a bone, this small thing could literally change not only a person's life, but the course of their life. And that was a big, big message. And I didn't quite understand it all at first, but going through school, you began to see the power in this message, that we live in a world where people are so disconnected, and through the hands of the chiropractor, we're able to reconnect them to their source and allow them to be the best that they can be. So I'm still learning about chiropractic. I believe that chiropractic, you could study it for an entire lifetime and never really completely understand it. It's just the most wonderful thing in the world.
And, I've got to tell you, I enjoy it too. And on my way, prior to recording our show, which is live every Saturday from 8:30 till 9 in the morning, that 20-minute drive here, I listen to philosophy tapes on chiropractic, and it fuels my passion even more. And I totally agree with you. And what I'd love to know is there has to be somebody that you've seen over your practice time that has absolutely not only motivated you to keep moving forward, but you've been a chiropractor for a long time. You went to Life Chiropractic College. How many years have you been a chiropractor?
I graduated in 1986, so this is my 27th year.
Wow, that's great. Congratulations. Wow. So who is that person? Is there somebody that motivates you, that, makes you really not only move forward, but continue that passion that you have?
Yes, I have several mentors in my life right now, and I'll talk about those in just a couple of minutes. But the main motivator, the main mentor in my life was Dr. Sid Williams, and I've mentioned him before. He was just an amazing leader in the chiropractic profession, and he started what's known as the Dynamic Essentials meeting. And we've been going to Dynamic Essentials really since I'm a student. And we have the meetings once a quarter, about 4 times a year. In fact, we just got back from Sarasota a week and a half ago, and they're absolutely amazing. And during Dynamic Essentials, Dr. Sid used to speak on Thursday, and then we would have a series of speakers that were leaders within the profession. Years ago, we would have folks like Fred Barge, Ian Grossum, Bob Sotilli, Tom Pistursky, just so many magnificent men that were able to take chiropractic to a new level. And those were the days back in the 80s and the 90s. More recently, obviously, people passed. Dr. Williams passed around Christmas time this past year, and we were very saddened by that. But the new leadership in DE are guys like Dr. Steve Judson, Dr. Brian Lieberman, president of Sherman College, Dr. Ed Cordero. These are guys that are really focusing on bringing chiropractic to the masses. See, the problem is that people don't truly understand the power of chiropractic adjustment or the profoundness, the negative aspect of the interference that we call the subluxation. And so what we want to do in our vision, my vision, is to rid the world of chronic subluxation.
Mm-hmm.
If we can rid the world of chronic subluxation, if we can get into the hospitals and adjust sick people, we're going to see a massive shift in the consciousness of this country.
And I totally agree with you on that. And I've got to tell you, there's a young girl that we've seen over time that she's just such an absolutely motivating factor for us. This little girl came in, she was 3 years old, on an oxygen tank, face mask, dragging the tank behind her. The oxygen tank was almost as big as she was. And I watched over a month and a half of Dr. Christman adjusting her. She got off the oxygen tank. The green veins that you could see in her face disappeared, and this beautiful little girl emerged. And I'm going to tell you, she's that motivating factor for us. She's the reason why we do what we do. And she's now, I think she's about 15 years old. She was told back then, too, by the profession medical doctors that she was never going to grow, would always have a feeding tube. Well, guess what? She's almost as tall as I am. She doesn't have the feeding tube any longer. She is a shining example of health. And I imagine that if chiropractors went into the hospitals, and I've got to tell you, we were driving in Delaware one day, and we ended up at, I believe it was the main children's hospital in that area. And I felt like it was one of those moments where you're just sort of drawn down that path. We've driven that road a million times. We were going to a restaurant that we normally love to go to, and we ended up driving in the entrance of this humongous children's hospital. As we drove through, you see all these poster boards of these beautiful children's faces with these motivational sayings, and you go around to the front and you see 50, 60 wheelchairs for little kids in the entrances. And deep down in my heart, I know that through the power of that chiropractic adjustment, that if they would allow us to walk in those doors and begin to do exams, figure out what's going on with their central nervous system, and allow those chiropractors to adjust, I am certain that those children would not only begin to function at a higher level of health, some would talk for the first time, walk for the first time, begin to express life. And I've got to tell you, my hope and prayer is that that occurs. That means that chiropractors have to be out there understanding what chiropractic is. And that means that let's not mince words. It's not massage therapy. It's not physical therapy. It is not electrical stim. It's not ultrasound. It's not ice and heat. Explain to me what is so powerful about that adjustment that you could go into one of those places and allow that body to heal. Why should this occur?
Well, that's a great question. And I'm going to tell you, without mincing words, that you and I were a brain stem. You and I were a spinal cord before we were anything else. That was the root of where our life began. And from that root, we established and had fruit created that were organs, that were tissues, and that were cells. And unfortunately, what we do today, the programming in the allopathic or the medical realm, is to treat the organs, the tissues, and the cells. And we miss the biggest portion, which is the root, the brain and the spinal cord, the brain stem, the brain, and the spinal cord. And when we understand how powerful it is to have no interference where the brain connects to the body, right at the top of the neck, if we can really apprehend that, if we can understand that, if we can wrap our minds around that, then we can understand how a person could have life flowing beautifully from above down and inside out. And so rather than treating effects, which are what those things that you mentioned do, all those therapies that you mentioned, they treat effects. People have to have effects for that to be successful. Chiropractic, to try and achieve a medical result with chiropractic makes it therapeutic. So what we tell our people is that you're here not to achieve a medical result. You're here to be restored. You're here so this adjustment can release life into your body. If life can be released into your body, there's only one predictable outcome, and that's health. And so health is really not what we go after. We go after more life, because when you have more life, more vitality flowing from every cell to every organ, you're going to have more health. And that's really what chiropractic is about. It's about restoration. People have power shortages. All those children that are in the hospital, they really just have a power shortage. They're disconnected. And if we could just bump that bone, if we can make that adjustment, then they're going to transform like that little girl in your office.
Isn't that the truth? And I've got to tell you, the one thing that I'm starting to think of, and I may have this, the person who told this story wrong, I think it was Dr. Fred Barge. But, you know, I always hear the public saying, you know, oh my God, you know, it's that time of year, my child's sick, oh, the flu bug, this, that, and the whatever. And they're always reaching for a pill, powder, lotion, drug shot, or surgery, and they believe that's the answer to health. When the reality is, as we've been saying this whole time, health comes from within. And what Dr. Fred Barge said, and he does this analogy of, you know, of a garbage can. And he basically says that if you have a garbage can, it's filled with garbage. And I always take it a little further. If we put it in the middle of a field where the sun's beating down on it all day and you leave it there for a week, is it going to attract rats? Is it going to attract mice? Is it going to attract flies? The answer is yes, it's definitely going to do that. However, if you took a garbage can, you kept it clean, you put it back out in that field and you left it there for a week, would it attract the rats? Would it attract the flies? Would it attract the bugs and the mice? And the answer is no. And the question is, why is that? And you have to then begin to think about yourself. You know, how does that body function and why are people getting so sick? It's simply because they're not allowing the body to express its full potential through being adjusted, turning that central nerve system energy on so the body can heal. And then they're filling their bodies, what I call, with SAD, the standard American diet, or what I call also garbage. You know, they're eating fried foods. They're going to the grocery store and buying genetically modified packages, products that they're not good for you. You know, they also are filling their bodies with neurotoxic stresses like vaccines, man-made medications. They have emotional stresses beyond the body's ability to adapt. You know, financial stress, relationship stresses. And they're probably sitting either at a desk for 8 to 9 hours a day, bending over, picking things up. But we're not setting our life up to live. And I ask you to talk to us a little bit about that. You know, we're living in such a world that everybody believes that sickness is just simply a part of the culture. But what about those people that are healthy and well all the time? You know, what are they doing differently that the rest of the culture isn't? And why should they be walking in a chiropractor's office?
Well, you know, it's interesting. You opened up a lot there. I want to first talk about, you know, Doctor, that analogy with the dump, the garbage is awesome, because, and it leads into the programming that the illegitimate programming that people have within their minds, the lies that they've been told, and really what's happened is we've been making decisions based on fear. You know, the reason why people take the pills, potions, and lotions is because they're afraid. They're afraid that when their body expresses itself, that's something that they need to tell their body to shut up. And that's what we've been taught ever since we've been little, is that if we express something like a fever, it's not good. But the truth is that the body has an intelligence within it. It really knows exactly what we need all the time. And oftentimes when there's a fever, that fever will be raised perfectly to a perfect temperature to boil out or destroy that sickness that's infiltrated the body. And so what happens is you've got this massive campaign that teaches people from day one that healing comes from the outside in, that symptoms are bad. In our office and throughout our teaching, when we go out and speak, we let people know that symptoms are actually good. You know, if you ate a bad piece of chicken, if you ate chicken with salmonella on it, you know, your body knows how to really throw up and have diarrhea after that, so it can get rid of that poison after you eat. And that's a good thing. It doesn't feel very good, but it's a good thing. If you hit your finger with a hammer and it doesn't hurt, man, you've got problems. You know, there's only one type of person that doesn't have symptoms, and that's a dead person, and they have no healing ability whatsoever. So symptoms aren't necessarily bad. And when you can embrace that and understand that, like we don't like them and we don't want them, but sometimes we have to allow the body to express itself. And this is important. The other thing that's important is really defining what health is. People in this country think health is really the absence of symptoms, and health is really just feeling good. So there's many people that feel good that could have cancer growing in their body, have high blood pressure and don't know it, really be pre-diabetic or diabetic. They can have all kinds of things going on within themselves that have not become clinical or symptomatic yet. So really, we're believing the lie that health is feeling good. And so we have to teach people that they believe things that really are not correct. We want people to be the best expression of who they are. We want people to get 100% life to 100% of their cells, and those are the people that are really healthy. And the only way you can know if you're fully connected is by going to a principal chiropractor and him or her evaluating you to see if you have nerve interference, to see if you have the presence or the absence of a subluxation. And we suggest that when you have a subluxation, vital forces that are affecting the way the body communicates with itself are interrupted, interfered with, and it's creating a destructive force within your body, which you may be aware of or may not be aware of. So we encourage everyone in the community to come in and get checked. You know, in my office, we check newborn babies. Why do we check newborn babies? Because they come out and they could be pulled out. They could be pulled out with forceps, vacuum extraction, even C-sections. They can get whiplash, and even vaginal births. They can grab the head. The doctors can grab their head a little too firmly and create nerve interference, which will set that child up for maybe a negative situation for the rest of their life. And all it takes is just a chiropractic checkup to a community to allow people to have a better expression of who they are. So the first thing that I would encourage people to do is not believe that just because you have the absence of symptoms, just because you don't feel any aches or pains, that you're healthy. You may or may not be. You need to determine, do you have a subluxation? Is there a bone out of place, pressing on a nerve, shutting off life to your body? And the only one that could do that, the only one that could tell you that, is a chiropractor.
You know, and I've got to tell you, and there, as I'm hearing you talk, you know, I hear people going out to, you know, weddings and special occasions with their loved ones that they haven't seen for, you know, years, whether it be 2 years, 5 years, 10 years. And I always talk about the proverbial Uncle Joe, you know, that Uncle Joe, you haven't seen him in forever, but he looks better than you've ever seen him. You say, oh my God, you look wonderful. What's been happening? You know, what have you been doing? He says, oh, I've been exercising. I'm eating right. I feel better than I've ever felt in my life. And you find out 2 weeks later what happens to Uncle Joe. He dies of a massive heart attack. You know, the first symptom for many people is death. And how you feel is such a poor indication of your health and vitality. And you have to begin to think to yourself, you know, then what is? You know, what are the markers that I'm looking for? And for many people, you know, the pharmaceutical company is spending millions of dollars a day in advertising to teach you that if you feel good, you're well, and if you feel bad, you're sick. But the reality is that's not how the body functions and works. And we're going to start to talk to start to talk about not only how that works, but also what's Dr. Neal's motivation? Why does he do what he does after 20-some years of being an absolutely amazing chiropractor? We're going to take a quick commercial break. I can't wait for you to hear this.
Christman Family Chiropractic, a creating wellness center located at 2310 Churchville Road, Suite C in Bel Air, is enhancing lives through the power of a chiropractic adjustment. As a licensed chiropractor in Maryland and Pennsylvania, Dr. Evan Christman can correct damage from years of lifestyle stresses while educating you to maintain good health for your lifetime. A dedicated professional with a very special focus on children with learning differences and autism, Dr. Christman treats people of all ages: newborn babies, children, pregnant women, families, seniors, and professional golfers. Isn't it time for you to reclaim your life? Take your first step toward health and vitality today. Call Christman Family Chiropractic, a creating wellness center, at 410-734-4060 and let their experienced staff show you how to restore the flow of life. 410-734-4060 or check them out at restorelifeflow.com.
Welcome back to Wake Up to Wellness with Michelle Christman, and I'm so excited to not only continue with Dr. Neal Cohen, but to learn what his motivating factor is for being a chiropractor. Dr. Neal, who's that person in your life that you've seen over time? Maybe it's a child, maybe it's your wife or your children that have absolutely kept you being so motivated to be that great chiropractor you are every single day.
Well, as I mentioned before, I have many mentors in my life. You know, in South Florida, we're very fortunate. We have a tremendous, wonderful group of principal chiropractors down here. We have the Saturday Night Live organization, which is the Southern Chiropractic Association, which is just full of principal chiropractors. We have Dynamic Essentials, which is our national organization started by Sid Williams, where we have many mentors within that group as well. But really what keeps me motivated more than anything else is the understanding that what we work with in chiropractic is unfailing. It is a principle that cannot be stopped. It's sort of like gravity. I explain this to my patients. You know, if we hold hands and jump off the second story, we really understand the law of gravity and what's going to happen to us, and it's not a good thing. So I teach people about what's called the law of life, and I teach them that vital and intelligent forces have to be expressed along the nervous system. And if the nervous system is wounded or the nervous system is affected negatively in any way, that they cannot be healthy. They cannot be that perfect expression of themselves, regardless of how many symptoms they have or how many diagnoses they have or don't have. And so what we try to explain to people is that you don't want to violate this law. Because the same way when you violate the law of gravity, you pay a penalty. If you violate the law of life, if you do not get connected, if you stay disconnected, then you cannot be at 100% the way God intended you to be. And so what really motivates me is watching people that remain connected have transformations within their lives. And it's not always just health transformations. Sometimes their marriages can be saved, or they like their jobs better. They want to exercise. They want to quit smoking because now they can really be connected to their source. They're connected to that inborn intelligence, that innate intelligence that created them from two cells. And all the healing that they've experienced, all the wonderful things that have come about within their lives has been because they have gotten connected and allowed this expression of this inborn or innate intelligence. And this inborn intelligence, it's important we understand it and become intimate with it because it's actually intangible. It's not something that we can actually touch, but we know that we have it because every time we eat an apple, our body can digest that and turn that apple into us. How does that happen? Only through an intelligent force can that take place. Well, that same intelligent force that took two cells and created you, it's with you every day of your life, wanting to heal you, wanting to make you perfect, wanting to make you as best that you can be. But it's unfortunate that with with the presence of subluxation, that can't happen. You're less than 100%. So my motivation is always just teaching people and watching their eyes light up and transforming their lives through the chiropractic adjustment.
Wow. Dr. Neal, I just want to thank you so much for your time. You're such an inspiration. And tell me, how can listeners reach you if they'd like to not only meet you, connect with you, but if they're listening in that Florida area where you live, how can they find you?
Well, it's thanks for that. We are in Pompano Beach on Atlantic Boulevard, 1436 East Atlantic Boulevard in Pompano Beach. My phone number is 954-941-4000. Really easy number to remember. And actually this weekend, thanks for asking, Michelle, we have a wonderful event. We're celebrating 20 years in the same location.
Wow.
I practiced for 7 years in Deerfield Beach, Florida. Now I've been in Pompano Beach for the last 20 years in the same location. So we're having an open house from 9 to 3 on Saturday, and we welcome all people to come in. We're going to give away all of our services. We're going to give away our chiropractic adjustment. We're going to give away examinations, x-rays. We're going to give away thermography. We want to change our community. So if you've been thinking about coming to the chiropractor, now's the time. Come in on Saturday. You've got nothing to lose. There's no obligation. Just come on in, and we'll do everything at no charge. We only do this once a year, and we're going to have food. We're going to have fun, and we're going to teach you about this chiropractic principle. So we look forward to seeing you. Come in and meet me, and I'll be happy to answer any questions that you have.
Sounds great. And Dr. Neal Cohen, thank you so much. You're absolutely amazing. And I can't wait for you not only tune in live every Saturday from 8:30 to 9 in the morning with Wake Up to Wellness with Michelle Christman, but I also want to invite you to our wellness workshops. We're doing a wellness workshop at the Tower Restaurant in Bel Air, Maryland, Tuesday, May the 14th from 6:30 till 8:30 in the evening. Dinner's on us. And the topic's about stress. Also, I want to ask you to not only think about your friends and family that have loved ones with ADHD and autism, but we do a wonderful series at Broom's Bloom Dairy off of 543 in Bel Air, Maryland. It's on Monday evenings at 7 p.m. You're welcome to call our practice and schedule a time for your friends and your loved ones. It's 410-734-4060. That's 410-734-4060. And you can watch and listen to Wake Up to Wellness with Michelle Christman live every Saturday from 8:30 till 9 in the morning on WAMD 970 AM, WYRE 810, WKHZ 1460, and you can watch us on www.khztv.com. Again, thank you. Take great care of your health.